Isaac had hoped that moving to Marrow Creek would be the fresh start he desperately needed. He had escaped the bustle of the city, searching for solace and a place to heal. The farmhouse he had found, tucked away on the outskirts of town, seemed perfect. It was isolated, surrounded by dense woods and a creeping fog that rolled in every evening. The house was old, weathered by years of abandonment, but to Isaac, it was a sanctuary. On the first night, he was tired, weary from the long drive, and thankful for the peace the place promised. The fireplace crackled, the warmth filling the room, and the creaking of the old wooden floors was oddly comforting. As he lay in bed, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of relief. Here, in this isolated place, no one would find him. No one would remind him of the chaos he had left behind. At midnight, a soft, distant sound echoed through the house. A knock. At first, Isaac thought it was his imagination playing tricks on him. But the knock came again, 3 slow raps, deliberate and measured, almost as if they were a signal. Isaac hesitated, heart thudding in his chest. He got out of bed, walking quietly to the door, half expecting to see a neighbor, someone who might have come to greet him. But when he opened the door, there was nothing. The wind rustled through the trees, but there were no footsteps, no voices. He stepped out onto the porch, looking down the dirt road, but everything was still, as if the world had frozen in place. He closed the door, shaking his head, convinced it was the house settling or a figment of his exhausted mind. He returned to bed, dismissing the strange event. The second night, the knocks came again. 3 sharp raps, louder this time, as if the person on the other side was growing impatient. Isaac jumped out of bed, his pulse racing. He wasn't sure why, but something in his gut told him this was no ordinary visitor. He opened the door and found nothing. Again. But this time, he noticed something else, a shadow. A figure stood at the far end of the porch, just out of the light's reach. The boy was smaller than he'd imagined, his frame thin and hunched. He wore a tattered, old-fashioned outfit, a white button-down shirt, faded suspenders, and pants that were too long for his small body. His feet were bare, dirty, and stained with the grime of the earth. Isaac's breath caught in his throat. "Hey!" Isaac called out, but the boy didn't answer. The air around him felt thick, oppressive, as if the night itself was pressing in on him. The boy's face was pale, almost sickly, his eyes dark hollow pits, staring without blinking, his expression unreadable. The boy didn't move. Didn't speak. He just stood there. Isaac took a hesitant step forward, but as soon as he did, the boy vanished. One moment he was there, and the next, he was gone, melted into the shadows like a wisp of smoke. Isaac staggered back into the house, slamming the door behind him. His heart hammered in his chest as he tried to rationalize what had just happened. Perhaps it was some local child playing a prank. Maybe someone in the town knew he was new and was testing him, trying to spook him. But the following nights brought more of the same. Each night, the boy returned, always at midnight, always knocking 3 times. The same hollow, dark eyes would stare at Isaac from the porch, and Isaac couldn't look away. Every time, the boy would vanish before he could speak to him, before he could even move. The boy's presence seemed to haunt the house. Shadows flickered in the corners of rooms. Whispers would fill the air when no one was there. Isaac began to notice changes. Small, subtle things. The temperature would drop unexpectedly in the house, even when the fireplace burned brightly. The walls, once dry and solid, seemed to groan as though the house itself was alive, pulsing with some ancient, hidden energy. The air grew heavy, dense with the smell of damp earth, and Isaac found himself waking at odd hours, sweating in terror from vivid nightmares. One evening, he ventured into the town to find any information on the farmhouse, hoping to discover something that could explain the boy's presence. The library was dusty and ancient, filled with books that looked like they hadn't been touched in decades. As Isaac flipped through local records, he came across an old article from 1947. The headline read, "Boy Gone Missing, Family Desperate for Answers." It was a tragic story of a child named Timothy, who had disappeared from the house when he was just 7 years old. The family had searched high and low for him, but the boy was never found. The article mentioned rumors that the family had been cursed, that strange events had surrounded them for years. Neighbors had whispered that Timothy had been buried near the well, a deep, forgotten shaft behind the barn. The family had tried to bury their secrets, But the whispers never stopped. Isaac returned to the house, feeling an unsettling weight settle on his shoulders. The boy's appearance wasn't a random occurrence. There was something tied to the farmhouse, something buried in its walls and beneath the ground. That night, Isaac couldn't sleep. At midnight, the knocks came again. This time, Isaac was ready. He opened the door and stepped outside, determined to confront whatever or whoever this was. The boy stood at the edge of the porch, his eyes dark and empty. He didn't speak, but raised a hand and pointed toward the backyard. Isaac didn't hesitate. He walked toward the barn, the ground cold beneath his feet. The night air was still, too still, like the calm before a storm. When he reached the well, his flashlight flickered and went out, casting him into complete darkness. The boy stood by his side, staring into the abyss of the well. Isaac felt a strange compulsion to look down. He did. And that's when he saw it, a small, wooden box at the bottom. His heart thudded painfully in his chest. He knew he had to retrieve it. Digging through the loose earth, Isaac uncovered the box. His hands shook as he pried it open. Inside, he found a bundle of small, child-sized bones, still wrapped in old, rotting fabric. Clutched in the bone's fragile grasp was a small toy soldier, painted black, its face cracked and worn. A sudden gust of wind howled through the trees. Isaac looked up and froze. The boy was standing behind him, closer now, his face contorted in pain. "Please," the boy whispered, his voice ragged, "you left me here." Isaac stepped back in horror. "What do you want from me?" The boy's eyes filled with tears, his lips trembling as he spoke again. "You're my family now." The earth beneath Isaac gave way. He fell into the well, his scream muffled by the dirt as it buried him. The last thing he saw was the boy's face, smiling in the dark. The next morning, the house was silent once again. But if you pass by the old farmhouse at night, you'll see a figure standing on the porch. And if you look carefully enough, you might notice that two figures now stand together, one tall, one small. Waiting. Always waiting.